If I mentioned the name, you would instantly recognize it. One of the larger manufacturers of freeze-dried food in the country. In fact, they may be the largest, I don't know. This was about 6 weeks ago. This is the end of March 2008. So this would have been early to mid-February. And here's what one of the largest manufacturers of freeze-dried food told my friend about 6 weeks ago. Governments, plural, not singular, governments, plural, have come here in the last week or two and bought everything we've got. Everything. Our entire inventory. Anything you want from now on, freeze-dry guy, will be a 6 to 8 week back order minimum, and we can't even promise that. Last minute preparations. There was a story in the news just in the last week about a country storing up tons of corn in a cave, of all things. I guess they don't have silos where they are. In fact, I know this country, and I know they don't have silos. We're seeing some unusual last-minute preparations taking place, and they're happening right now. If I had a better timeline, I would give it to you. I'm not sure anybody has a better timeline. The timeline we know of is enough for me. Knowing that we'll get through 2008 pretty well, and most likely make it for 2009 pretty well, that's okay for me. I'll take that 21 months and run with it. Absolutely I will. And every month after that is a blessing from God to do a little bit more and talk to a few more people. Every month after that's a blessing from God, and be living on borrowed time, in my opinion. A little bit about Professor McCanny and what's causing all this to happen. Because I kind of touched on this a couple of times, and we need a bit more detail. As opposed to what NASA says, our solar system is not electrically neutral, as NASA says, but it is electrically charged. In fact, Professor McCanny refers to our solar system as being a massive solar capacitor. And any large object that comes into our solar system will start discharging that capacitor. And that's when the problems start, and it's already happening. This large body that we talked about earlier is interacting electrically and with gravity with our sun and with us directly. All weather, and this is mentioned in the film, The Day After Tomorrow, all weather except for small areas, and we talk about man-made weather, but man-made manipulation of weather can affect a couple hundred square miles for a relatively short period of time. That's what man-made weather can do. But otherwise, all weather on this planet is a consequence of energy coming at us from our sun. In the film The Day After Tomorrow, there was an actor acting as a NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, acting as a NOAA scientist, and he makes this statement. The only place energy like this can come from, and at this level, is our sun. And that's a true, scientifically true statement. The sun is what's causing our weather to become so bizarre and so strange. Energy from our sun. And our sun is truly going ballistic and going bizarre, becoming bizarre. We've known for many decades that our sun goes through an 11-year cycle. 11 years of increasing solar activity to a high point, and 11 years of decreasing activity to a low point. When it got to the top of the 11-year cycle about 5 years ago, it didn't peak, it kept getting higher and higher to the point where all the instrumentation that they had set up to measure solar activity had to be recalibrated. They couldn't even measure it. They had to mathematically extrapolate to get the answers they were looking for what our sun was doing. And right now, in March of 2008, our sun is doing some very bizarre and very strange things, which is causing our weather to be very bizarre and do very strange things all over the earth. And it's happening right in front of our faces. And it will continue to happen. I urge people to get Professor McCanny's books, read his books, and listen to his radio show. Professor McCanny is a scientist who knows what's going on and is willing to talk about it. There are scientists in the government who know about these matters, but they don't talk publicly about them. It would be the end of their careers. There is occasionally a slip of the tongue. I'll give you an example of a slip of the tongue. There is a program for civilians to be trained to observe weather and report back to the county sheriff's office what they observed. Sky warning. Now, a lady friend of mine, she's an electrical engineer, she took the sky warning class in St. Louis County in the fall of 2006. This was just after Hurricane Katrina. And during a break, this NOAA scientist, they're young, 36 or so year old scientist, he's out there in the hallway on this break, and a lot of talk about hurricanes because we just had a major hurricane. And he made this statement: just wait till you start seeing these hurricanes forming over land. Whoa, hurricanes don't form over land. You can't graduate from weather school and become a meteorologist and even think that or believe that. My friend tried to ask a follow-up question. The young NOAA scientist knew that if he said anything else, his career and pension would be at risk, so he shut up right then. But we've since seen at least one hurricane over Oklahoma. It was about a year ago. The classic cyclonic type storm, about 50 to 100 miles wide with a well-formed eye and winds in excess of 75 miles an hour. That's the definition of a hurricane. Cyclonic storm covers a wide area with a well-formed eye and winds in excess of 75 miles an hour. Over Oklahoma about a year ago in 2007. One of the things about the modern age is anybody with internet access can watch in real time on radar as these things are happening. And my friends who are involved in construction and any outdoor activity, they watch that radar every day because it affects their livelihood. And tens of thousands of people saw this event, this hurricane over land. Do we have any other questions out there that have been written down and to be handed up front? We don't? Okay. I'll make sure I get over all these questions here. I think I have. Altitudes of safe places. I've touched on this several times, but once again, the U.S. Navy, not John Moore, the U.S. Navy says that the Missouri-Arkansas Ozarks could become a series of islands. That's pretty scary. Out where I live, the low points are 800 feet above sea level and the high points are 1,200 feet above sea level. Thinking of my neighborhood as becoming a series of islands is very scary. That, however, is what the U.S. Navy says. There's a book I'm going to recommend. It's in your bibliography on your paper, but for those watching this tape, it'll be helpful. The title of it is Patriots Surviving the Coming Collapse by James Wesley Rawls, R-A-W-L-E-S. Patriots Surviving the Coming Collapse by James Wesley Rawls. The collapse he describes is caused by economic problems. However, the book is often described as a survival manual disguised as a novel. The advice he gives and the scenarios that take place are very, very likely to be happening in real life. That's why I recommend the book. There's another Hollywood film that I sometimes refer people to, Kevin Costner film, The Postman. They really don't explain what caused the problems with the Holocaust of the Postman and the crisis. However, you'll see if you watch the film, the actor, Kevin Costner, coming across what looks like a medieval English village. The way people dress, the way people live. He also comes across fortified towns and villages. In a severe long-term crisis, the federal government will still exist, and the federal government will still think they exercise control. The federal government will exercise control as far as their fence goes. That's what they'll exercise control over. State governments, pretty much the same way. Government in a long-term severe crisis will be at the county level. In fact, up until the Great Depression in the 1930s, that's what government was for most people in this country. And once you get 60 or 100 miles away from these cities, government for most people is still the county government. County government will once again be king of the hill. If there's any services provided by any government, it will be at the county level in a long-term severe crisis. Something I need to mention, and it's in my article, No Need for Panic, is the I-35 corridor. Typically, the public arguments go one of two ways. There's a Chamber of Commerce argument that the I-35 corridor, which goes from the Mexican border to Canada, will be good for commerce and good for business. There's a Patriot community argument that it's going to be foreign contractors, it will hurt our sovereignty, and it'll be bad for America. What neither side is talking about, why are they building this thing in the first place? Why are they building a 10-lane highway and 2 rail lines and fiber optics and pipelines in the first place? Why are they doing it? That's not addressed publicly. I believe I know the answer. The reason they're building it, and they are building it right now, is because they're going to need it. The reason they're going to need it is because existing infrastructure that moves heavy, bulky goods is going to be broken, damaged, and destroyed. Right now, that part of the country, by the way, is grain country. Corn, soybeans, and wheat. It's the most productive farmland on the planet. There's nothing else that even comes close. Those heavy, bulky items, corn, wheat, and soybeans, a lot of it's moved right now by trains and by barge, river barge. Well, if the train rails are disrupted and broken, if the rivers are 50 miles wide, you don't have locks and dams on rivers 50 miles wide. They're going to have another way to move the heavy, bulky items through this country. And that's why they're building it. They're building it because they're going to need it. That's why they're building it. They're building it because they're going to need it. They're going to need it because existing infrastructure is going to be broken, damaged, and destroyed. I want to talk a little bit more about communications because it is so essential, and I have to keep coming back to this. Using professional-grade two-way radios is not like picking up your cell phone. It isn't. There's things you have to learn and things you have to know if you want to use and be effective with professional-grade two-way radio communications. A lot of people are hesitant to get one more government authority in their back pocket, and I don't blame you. I don't like to do that either. You don't need to become a licensed ham radio operator to get the skills of a licensed ham radio operator. The skills are what you need. The little card that says you can talk legally, it's nice to have, but it's not mandatory. I urge people to get those skills and to find people who have those skills to network with them and get the training necessary so you can get the equipment and be effective and be able to talk to your loved ones, and they can tell you they're okay, you can tell them you're okay, and one can ask the other for help if and when you may need that help. The time we've got, I really can't stand here and tell you precisely. Do we have 21 months? I hope so. As far as Earth changes being severe, we probably do. In terms of other potential crises, there may be timelines and dates marked on calendars, but they haven't told me. This economy is in severe trouble. One of the foundational parts of our economy is major banks loaning money to other major banks.